On this episode of Mothman in the Bible Belt, Bluefield-based alt-rocker Matt Dill is here to discuss his latest release, Drunken, Belligerent Forget-Me-Nots, growing up in McDowell County, and the use of artificial intelligence in music. Dill also chimes in on music artists' right to privacy after pop singer Chappell Roan eloquently stated she wanted to be seen, quote-unquote, as a random bitch on the street by her fans. And he gives his 2 cents on artists being blacklisted over their support for Palestine. Coming up next.
Welcome to the Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast with your host, Buck Fantastic.
Girl Scout cookies.
Matt Dill is an accomplished Bluefield singer-songwriter, and he's the host of the radio show What's Next on WHIS. Dill has put out 4 records thus far, including Drunken, Belligerent Forget-Me-Nots, released in July of this year, which is available to purchase on iTunes and Amazon Music. You can purchase the digital version of the record on Dill's website for as little as $1. Wow. Dill's sound is inspired by music acts like Cake, Queens of the Stone Age, The Beatles, John Hartford, John Prine, and Weezer, just to name a few. He'll be playing Chetty's Pub in Victor, West Virginia on October 25th. Join me, your host, Buck Fantastic, for another exciting episode of Mothman in the Bible Belt. It's a collective chit-chat of otherworldly origins. Welcome to the Mothman in the Bible Belt, Matt. How are you?
I'm pretty great considering. We ain't got much power down here, and it's been a day full of storms, but my house is intact, so I'm all right.
Matt, when did you get started in music?
See, I actually got a guitar, the first one, when I was like 13 years old, and I haven't been able to stop playing since. I've been playing since I was actually playing out gigs about just a little shy of 20 years now. I think I started when I was like 21-ish, and I'm about to turn 40 here next January.
What musical artists helped shape your sound?
I would say started with the parents' steady diet of good classic rock, and the first artist that probably really grabbed me, and I grew up on Motown, classic rock, R&B, stuff like that around the house, but that was the first artist I remember digging in and listening to like everything my parents had, which they had a great vinyl collection anyways. And then after getting a little bit older and getting into like 90s and being a teenager and stuff, that's when I started to hear all the music with distortion that started to like set my ears on edge. Like, you know, hearing Sublime and Nirvana and Radiohead when they started like hitting the airwaves in the 90s changed things a lot for me. And I found myself loving any and all alternative rock type stuff.
Matt, how do you go about writing music? Do you have to fast, be inspired, over-caffeinated, or stoned? Or
Well, any one of those certainly helps a lot. The funny thing is that with writing, that most of the time, not all the time, but I would say a good percentage of the time, I'm just in my car or somewhere like that. Usually it seems to be the car or shower or something like that. And then I just frantically grab my phone and record a voice note because suddenly I've got a few like lyrics or just like a line that came to me that like got stuck in my head. And I'm like, write that down. So I do basically. And then later on, I come back and listen to it and I'm like, oh, that's actually not trash. And then usually go from there. But once I get an idea like that, like it's kind of compulsive. Like I would just ignore everything I'm supposed to be doing in my life. Just like, never mind, song, next funeral.
have you ever had a song idea come to you while you're on the pot or brushing your teeth?
Now I guess not specifically that I could think of. I don't know why I realized it's like showering cars so often. Something about those must really work for me because I'll be swerving all over the place sometimes, frantically grabbing at my phone to throw that voice memo down real quick.
I want to talk about your new record, Drunken, Belligerent Forget-Me-Nots. How long did it take to come up with the songs for the record?
once you would think about it, actually, like a lot of them, they go far enough back. I think like my daughter is now 17 and she's in high school and a senior even. And the very first song on the album, Snakes, and I say, because the baby is asleep, I wrote it when she was an actual tiny baby human person that could barely walk and stuff. So actually the first 6 songs of the album kind of go in chronological order. Like that's the oldest one all the way back to when she was little. And then the next ones kind of go through my life through the years, kind of in chronological order, one terrible relationship after another. And but then some of them were just written pretty recently. So I just grabbed a grab bag of 10 of them and said, yeah, this seems like a good 10 songs. Let's do it.
How long did it take to record and mix the record?
That was a little bit quicker because I'm an insane person. I bullied all of my friends, and Robbie Lanham, who is an excellent engineer, Monarch Entertainment in Beckley, West Virginia. And I'd known him for years from drumming with Parachute Brigade and playing with Motion Theater back in the day and stuff like that. But he's been doing excellent work recording. And when I found out that, that was, I don't know, it's still certainly not cheap, but found out it was more affordable than I thought, I just started making impulsive decisions. And shout out to my mom, Callie, and my sister, Nikki. One of them for a birthday present. My birthday's like in January, and one of them for a Christmas present the month before. Each of them like paid enough for a day in the studio. So that was enough for me to get like 3 songs knocked out there. And once I did that, I was like, oh no, we're doing a whole album. And then I just 6 months or so. Yeah, we started in January. It's the first day we went, January 18th. And album was released July 20th, but I think we went and finished the last bit of recording in June. So not all that long to, honestly. If I could, I would have just locked them all in a room for like a week or two. We would have just done it then. But they have lives and jobs and families and stuff. So I had to negotiate around all that.
So what was the final price tag for the record?
That's a good question. Let me think. I would say I'll probably end up sinking about $1,000 into it in recording and stuff. I had to guess over all of it, but honestly,
did you write all the songs on Drunken, Belligerent, Forget-Me-Nots?
All of them but one. Number 7, Flowers and Pills, is written by Bill, my best friend, and the guy that plays bass on all the songs. And I can't put enough praise on that song because we've played it I've heard it played super, super slow, like extra tear in your beer country sad. I've heard it played full speed, like messed out rockabilly fast, and it works every version of it. That song is just a beast. I love it so much. So when we were putting together ideas for what songs we were going to do, Bill said, threw that on the list. I was so happy he was going to let me record it.
Is it you or is it me, or does Flowers and Pills sound a little bit like Johnny Cash's Tennessee Flat Top Box?
Well, now I got to go listen to Johnny Cash's Tennessee Flat Top Box. See, I would not be surprised if it does. Like it's one thing that's great about that is it's got that.
It's the drum. It's the drumming.
And
it's the drumming and the rhythm.
And that's Dustin, the guy who plays on the album almost all the drums. Robbie Lanham that did the mixing and all that stuff. He plays on 2 of the songs, but all the rest is Dustin that plays with me live and stuff. And that was the whole point of contention, kind of like we went back and forth over that, and I kind of just let everybody cook when we went in there. Like I didn't have to tell them much of anything. Dustin and Bill are both much better musicians than I am. So I would just kind of be like, here's the song. Here's kind of what we do. We play it a few times, get a thing tight. And I wouldn't go back and say, no, this place do this, or like just very minimal input. And Dustin came in and did that whole shuffle thing on there. And it was like, damn, that's good. Now it makes me want to steal somebody's car and get moonshine drunk in it. I don't know. It makes me want to commit felonies, but in a good way.
Did you produce the record yourself? It sounds really polished.
Oh, thank you. But no, it was all the work, all the actual recording, producing, mixing, mastering. That's all good old Robbie Lanham up there. He really took it front to back, even the masters at the end. So that was nice because I've done a lot of home recording and stuff myself, but you always just fight with it and agonize with it. And to go in and have somebody that's just that good to just do it is pretty glorious.
So I'll bide my time, drowning in my mind because the water is too deep. The snakes that are crawling inside my head are keeping me up and out of bed. on TV. Nothing for me, so I look through the firewall. And they might be.
Snakes sounds like a nightmare song. What inspired it?
Actually, my child was very young at the time, and that was back before I got into radio, and I was delivering pizza, and I stopped smoking, any weed or anything, so I could pass the drug test to try to get a job, not delivering pizza. And so I was like holding out for this one job, trying to get a couple other ones, and just one night I was up late and just couldn't really sleep because a number of different things, but then also like couldn't, just smoke a little bit and pass out. That's where the one line comes from, because I can't smoke, my mind just choked. Dependence is a hateful thing. But and I ended up watching a shit ton of They Might Be Giants videos, which is one of my favorite bands, and that's where like some of those, the They Might Be Giants line and the Purple Toupee mentioned in the bridge, because I just watched every video of theirs I could find and went down a rabbit hole. And I don't know, somehow that just turned into a song in my head. I was like, yeah, well, I kind of like that.
Madeline Lenore directed the video for Snakes. How did you go about selecting someone that shared your vision as to how the song should be presented visually?
Well, one thing that was real nice about that is it was an absolute surprise. She just sent it to me, and I did not see it coming. She's someone I've known for a while. She like travels to like Mexico and to like Las Vegas and Joshua Tree and all kinds of places doing photo shoots, but she just also just no big deal. She just got family around here, so she just jet sets off wherever, but also does like lots of cool like video work stuff when she wants to. And she really liked that song anyways, and then surprised me the one day, said, hey, I knew you were having, people make art like in pictures for the individual songs. And I got this idea and made this little video. Tell me if you like it. And I was just like, that's fantastic. I very much like it. Thank you so much. So I didn't have to give her any input. She just did that and surprised me with it. And I was very happy about it.
It's nice.
I've tried to fight this a million ways. Thinking of you too often these days. No matter where I roam, my mind seems to stay. Thinking of you too often these days. And I can't keep pretending it's not a problem. Can't keep pretending I can go on. I've tried to fight this a million ways. Thinking of you too often these days.
Who are you thinking of too often these days? On Too Often?
Oh man, that's several failed relationships back. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it kind of sounds like. I was listening to way too much. Well, I was listening to a lot of soul music and Motown, like stuff that I like, that old like Otis Redding kind of stuff like that. And I was in a relationship that was good in all the ways it's supposed to be. There was nothing wrong with it, but I don't know if you ever just been in one of those relationships where even though there's nothing wrong with the person, they weren't right for you. And so after long enough and everything, ended up striking up. Well, someone struck up conversations with me, but I didn't stop them. And at one point I was like, nope, thinking about this too much. This is a problem. This is going to be a problem. And did I learn anything from it? Did I actively correct the issues in my life? No, I just wrote a song about it, as is typically my method. So trying to actually learn lessons and do better these days, that's really annoying. It was much easier to just write a song about it. But whatever, fine. I'll just be a better human.
Now I want to talk about my favorite song on the record.
Oh.
Now, my girlfriend's not my girlfriend, and she's moved to Texas.
Girlfriend's not my girlfriend and she's moving to Texas. I don't know what's wrong with me, but if you ask my exes, they could write a detailed list of all the ways I'm defective. Now my girl
Finish it.
Now my girlfriend's not my girlfriend, and she's moving to Texas. That's the whole true story, actually. Well,
So
pretty
what was
much
the
all the
spark?
things. What'd you say now?
What's the spark behind it?
Okay, so the the one girlfriend, when we went asunder, her sister had moved to Texas a few months before, and just sort of taken all of her stuff and thrown it in a van, and what she couldn't fit in there, she just sold off or gave away, and then just did it. And so when it all went south with us, and it did so in dramatic and terrible fashion, she decided she was just going to do exactly that. She just loaded her car full of all those goodies, and just packed up her Nissan Altima and drove that bad boy to Texas. But the line in the middle, in the bridge, if I were you, I'd leave me too, and I'd flip that double bird. It's true. That's probably the best part of the whole true story, because she packed up her entire car full of all of her belongings. And then she went out. I was watching from the door, and she gets to the car, and she turns around, and she flips me a big dramatic double bird, and she very much deserved to. And then she got in her car, and I'm waiting for her to pull off, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And then eventually she reemerges, and she comes back to the door, and she explains she can't find her cell phone. So I got to look through the house for the cell phone, and then she just ended up finding it in her car. It was just difficult to find because all of her shit was in that car. So that was a little funnier than it should have been. But the other reason I wanted to write that song was not just because I was not doing great at the time, and writing a song helped me through it, but also because I think that there's way too many instances of breakup songs where they did me wrong, I miss you, whatever, but there's just not enough songs where like, yep, I was the dickhead, I'm the asshole in this situation, and here's acknowledging it. I was like, those people need a song too. And so I stepped up to the plate, being the asshole in that situation.
But it makes for a great song. That's the most
Thanks.
important part.
These boxes filled with all the finer things. They hold the artifacts of self-anointed kings and queens, and all the permanence that money brings. I'm a cardboard archaeologist, retrograde technologist, dismantling your greatest creations. Taking old puzzles apart, revaluing priceless art, and dragging your secrets into the sun. How beautiful and gracious and elegant were we, these boxes filled with all the finer things. They hold the artifacts of self-anointed kings and queens, and all the permanence that money brings. How beautiful and gracious.
Is Cardboard Archaeologist about moving and hauling shit in cardboard boxes?
It is. That one's one of the few that, instead of being about me, there's this really incredibly talented artist by the name of Mark Davis, and he has stuff on the internet and like the Cursing Dog and stuff like that. But for a while, he was doing this job where he would go and people's estates that had passed away, they would go and box up all their stuff, and they're wealthier people, so it was always basically his Facebook feed for a while was like an antiques roadshow sort of situation. He was always putting up pictures of crazy, beautiful material possessions these people had collected, and talking about the auctioning off of them and the packing up of them. And one day he just posted and just said, "I'm a cardboard archaeologist." That was the entire Facebook post. And I just stopped what I was doing at work and immediately started writing this song about it, because I just love that idea too. I mean, I'm not trying to, shit on people's dreams for wanting to go buy stuff, but we really do put a lot of stock in the things that we want to buy and the things we want to have. And then they're just going to pack it up and haul it off when you're done. So, make sure that if you're going to put that much of your life and your effort and your money and your love into this thing, that it's worth it, because you can't take it with you.
I listened to the first version on Stuff and Things, and I have to say the production value on this was through the damn roof.
Oh yeah, because that old one, God knows what I recorded it. That I'm old. All those old home recordings and different stuff on Stuff and Things or My Bad. It could be from anything from like, not a bad setup down at the radio station I work at to like me just like with the jankiest like laptop and mic and whatever spastic setup. So it's all over the place. But the Cardboard Archaeologist, the new one was so fun to record because Robbie, at my live shows, I have a telephone microphone that I'll sing through for a bunch of different songs, and I can loop it and do stuff with it. But people really seem to like that, and honestly, it's selfish. I like it for me. I've always loved that phone effect in songs. And so when I was talking about it, recording it, I was like, "Hey, Robbie, could I got that out in the car. Could I just go get that phone mic and could we hook that up and use it to record?" And you should have seen his eyes light up like a child. He was like, "Hell yeah, but Jada, man, go get it." And so yeah, it's all recorded. The first half of the song, the main vocal and the harmonies are all recorded through this old microphone that's from an old Bell Atlantic telephone handset.
We're at the bottom of every list, oh Lord, but you're at the top of mine. Just so wild and wonderful to feel this good all the time. You rock my Tudor's biscuit world, which easier than a Gino's pizza. Just a McDowell boy and a Wyoming girl falling in love in West Virginia. When we go on Bob Evans dates, no, we don't need the menu. Just a McDowell boy and a Wyoming girl falling in love in West Virginia.
With In Love in West Virginia, featuring Jessica Hypes, you sing of romance, Tudor's Biscuits, and Gino's Pizza, with the background being the Mountain State. Is this your white trash love song to West Virginia?
It definitely it was. I mean, well, it still is. I love West Virginia so much, and it was like the real life adventures basically. Me and Jessica dated for, I don't know, a couple years, and she's a girl from Wyoming County, and I was from McDowell County. And it was one of our main arguing points is that McDowell County is the county, but she would mistakenly say that Wyoming County was the county because, she was wrong and foolish about that. But a lot of those, that's all just pretty much true stories of adventures we got into, drinking giant beers in Princeton, blackout nights at Charlie's up there in Fayetteville, West Virginia. And it's true stories of all the shenanigans you can get into in the Mountain State. There's not much of a better place to fuck around and find out and fall in love.
It's like a nostalgic take on the B-52's Deadbeat Club, but turning it into the West Virginia's Deadbeat Club,
Oh, nice.
That's when I was listening to it, that's how I, interpret it. I mean, they talk about all these different places in the Deadbeat Club and Athens, and you're talking about the entire damn state and all these cultural things.
Any comparison I can get to the B-52, I will absolutely gladly take. I was just saying the other day, having a conversation with my daughter, like, could you imagine being at like a B-52 show before like they really blew up? You're just somewhere in like Athens, they're just at some house party or something. Like that would be wild as hell. But I digress. But with the one thing about the song being so different than everything else, honestly, like the reason I put it on the album was because one day I thought about it and it made me laugh so hard. Like it made me laugh so hard, I almost like fell out of the shower. Like I just crumpled over laughing with the idea of like, what if I had 9 songs of like, heartache and just agony and disappointment and dysfunction, and then just wrapped it up with this hunky-dory, happy little love song. Like it just seemed so funny to me. I couldn't. And I love a left turn at the end of a record too. There's a bunch of them that I like that have a last song like that that's completely different. So I was like, yep, and that's how I'm gonna do it.
The acoustic guitar meeting the hip hop beats on What Did I from Stuff and Things, was that like intentional or contrived? It's a really great song.
Thank you. So there's this little device that I have, and I'm sad because I just recently sounded again and figured out that it died. I'm gonna have to order another one. But it's a little synthesizer, touchscreen synthesizer and sequencer called a K-oscillator made by the company Korg. It's like $100, but you could just has all these different settings and you can make like little running beats. And that beat underneath was just one that I just playing around with that, just recorded one day. Just I was testing out to see if this little setup actually worked to record. And then I liked the random beat I got so much. That's one of the only times I can think of that I wrote a song backwards and different that way. Then I was just like, no, I'm just going to use this beat, and then I'm just going to play some guitar over it and like come up with something that sounds pretty. And then after I did that, I was like, oh, okay. And I had the idea of that sort of particular, like, I don't know, more that feel like it's a little more repetitive than I usually would go for in a song, but it just stuck in my head and I liked it. And then also that damn phone effect, like I'm a sucker for it. I didn't even have the damn phone microphone then. I just was using an effect on the software that sounded like that. So clearly it's always been a theme. I don't know.
Footed in water balloons and a super soaker too. And when you hit the block, that's when I'm hitting you. And when I hit you in the tummy, you ain't gon' think it's funny. You go back to the crib, try to get some from your honey. You're trying to make a move and you're getting pretty close. So she's like, ugh, you smell like mashed potato juice. That shit is gross. I got that mashed potato juice. That mashed potato juice. That mashed potato juice. I got that mashed potato juice. That mashed potato juice. That mashed potato juice. Yeah, come around my hood again, motherfucker. See if I don't spray you up again. Ain't nobody trying to listen to your bullshit. You smell like some funky ass old mashed potatoes now, motherfucker. Yeah.
Another song from your back catalog that I really love. Mashed Potato Juice. I mean, it's a great rap track from My Bad. In it, you rap. You try to make a move, and you're getting pretty closer. She's like, oh, you smell like mashed potato juice. That shit is gross. How did that track come to being? And why didn't you make a music video for it? It was funny as hell.
Well, definitely I would have been for the budget purposes, but that's another one of those that's like super, super old. Like, 'cause my child was a whole baby child. So it occurred to me, it just made me laugh, the idea of how I do, despite like how ridiculously crackertastic I am. I love rap, and the thing I always was, I just couldn't really rap, A, because I don't have it, and B, because I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to shoot anybody. There are legal consequences for that. I have a child, and I can't risk it. I'm probably not even going to say that I'm going to do it, because then sometimes people shoot you over that. So, but you know what I probably would do, on the other hand, though, if you really crossed me and made me mad, I might be willing to take some of the juice that forms on top of old moldy mashed potatoes and then spray somebody up with it. And so that idea was real funny to me, and I made this goofy little beat. And back when I was like first playing shows, and to this day, every now and then I'll be playing, and like at A1 Day One will show up or something, and they'll be from the back like mashed potato juice. And every now and then I still got the beat saved. So if it's the right night, the right party, I know I got the right people that are actually going to know it, and I'll still do it. And that's kind of like between recording it real quick and then people. That was like the first song I ever had that in any sort of way went like viral. That was like the MySpace days. But I remember people being like, "Dude, everybody down here VMI is playing mashed potato juice," and stuff like that. My daughter forces all of her friends to listen to it. It's like this rite of passage thing. Apparently she waits until they've been hanging out a while, and then one day she plays it, but then doesn't tell them it's her dad. And then she just waits for them to just like realize in horror.
Matt, West Virginians on the national level have been stereotyped to death. What's wrong and what's honest about these stereotypes?
I always love telling people, when it comes to West Virginia, we got our problems, but you're picturing it wrong. Like, for one thing, like where I grew up down in McDowell County, I know that, if somebody was from outside of West Virginia and they were just going by stereotypes and imagine, for one thing, and West Virginia is demographically still like a very, very white state, but like specifically down there in the coal fields, there was like just more of a mix than you might expect, because back, when the coal mines are going, fun fact, they were gladly going to exploit anybody and everybody. Local folks, people coming in from any and all countries. They had representatives up there at, Ellis Island, finding people with mining experience from whatever country and sending them down this way. So it's the little things like that, like some of the diversification of it, some of the ways that, also the fact that everybody's seeing like, and I love that we're getting more exposure now with like Sierra Farrell and stuff like that, but that also still lends itself to that kind of Appalachian idea. And I do like my music just being its own little weird alternative thing. Cause it's like, no, I'm also like a kid from West Virginia. Like this is also what you get from Nerdy Kid in Welch, West Virginia, all this kind of strange stuff too. And just like there's really good, really authentic hip hop right here out of West Virginia, and metal right here out of West Virginia that just gives a real different perspectives for what it is. You know, it's not just that folksy, sweet, you know, hanging out with your meemaw and, you know, people's got some moonshine there under the porch. Nah, there's like a lot of weird, different, darker aspects to it. It's much more textured and interesting than people realize.
You grew up in McDowell County, the most impoverished county in West Virginia, that's experiencing immense troubles with substance abuse. What was that experience like growing up there?
One thing that was pretty wild to remember is being told point blank in a way that felt pretty almost kind of mean. And I remember a teacher one year letting us know, they're like, you know, West Virginia did worse in the country with our test scores, and McDowell County came 55th out of 55 counties. And I was just like, well, okay, you don't have to like shame us about it, guy. Geez, like way to make us feel bad. Like it sounds like some other people maybe failed us along the way. But you know, and like watching the opioid epidemic happen like from inside my family, even like people that I love, and watching as Percocets and stuff, Lortabs showed up, and how those turned into Tylox, and how Tylox turned into OxyContin, and how OxyContin turned into Suboxone, how that turned into the latest waves of people getting on heroin, and then when heroin was too expensive, fentanyl. Like watching wave after wave after wave, but right here on the front lines, and then hearing the national news stories kind of echo their version of it, and slowly catching up, which they've done a really great job as far as exposing the way it went all the way to the top, and these people knew good and well that they were profiting off of a medicine that was going to get people addicted and was going to probably lead to their deaths, and they did not care, and they had every way of knowing that they were sending too much of that stuff here, but they still just kept doing it. So being in the middle of it and wanting to just grab the rest of the country and shake them by the shoulders when they have the wrong idea and think, oh wow, why do they do that to themselves there? It's like if you could see the perfect storm of bullshit that occurred that just rained all this injustice down on all the people of this area when it came to the opioid epidemic, you would probably see it differently.
Yep. I saw it in my house. My mom was on oxys in the late 90s, and she never fully came back. I'll put to it that way.
Yeah, man. It's just that you will watch to. I was just saying to someone the other day, because they're talking about worrying if someone they knew was on something, and I was like, you will look into the eyes of someone you know and not know them anymore. I mean, like it can change you in such a fundamental way. Like you will think things you would never think and do things you would never do on the right substance. So it really is like trying to pull people back out of another universe or something.
Matt, what's your thoughts on AI being used in music to replicate singers' vocals?
Oh man, absolutely terrifying. So I did my day job is in radio, and I have a show called What's Next, and I remember talking about it like towards the end of last year, talking about the developments in AI and how in Congress, when when Drake and Kendrick Lamar were beefing, and Drake had that song where he used an AI version of Snoop's voice, and then what everybody was real pissed about was Tupac's voice. And then that was a great example. They straight up played that in a meeting in Congress because they're like, hey, here's the perfect example. Tupac's estate did not sign off on this. This is an actual artist, who his people are still collecting royalties off his music. He wants it to go to his family. And like, what do we do about this? What do we do about this? Because then once somebody captures, you unfortunately have to have laws in place, because if you don't tell a company that they can't capture an AI version of your voice and then use it in perpetuity to make whatever song they want to with it, they'll do it. They'll do it if they can get away with it. And people are going to have to start watching really carefully about the contracts they sign, because in Hollywood, that's one of the things that they were struggling with the extras and actors and stuff. They were they were trying to make it so that they could make them sign a thing. They get their likeness once. That extra becomes somebody famous one day. Oops, you signed a form forever ago, and now we can just put you in whatever movie we want to using an AI likeness of you. So yeah, when it comes to the idea of replication of singers, actors, any of that stuff, and what they can do with AI, I'm thoroughly terrified of, to be honest.
It's a scary thought. What do you think of country music icon Randy Travis allowing his past vocals to be digitally manipulated with AI to create so-called new music?
Well, and this is no shot against my boy Randy, but like first off, like I know he's not been in like the best of health in like recent times, so I wonder how much he made that decision and how much that was influenced by some of the others around him, because Lord knows there's nobody quite as money hungry as the members of someone's estate seeking to see what they can do with stuff. Yeah, but even if Randy did say, yeah, no, that's cool. I don't know. I feel it feels like a cheapening. I don't know, of his good stuff, man. You've got a good catalog of things. Don't let people go back and start meddling with it and give them the right to do whatever they're going to do with it. Because once you open that gate, I think it's real hard to close it.
Yeah, it just sounds tacky as hell. I don't know. I just think it's going to be a stain on his back catalog. The fact that he gave the thumbs up to it.
Well, I'll tell you, give another side rant randomly. I found out this recently because was talking on. I do shift on Kicks Country, one of our stations where I work, and I heard the beginning of this song start up, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's just Rebel Rebel by David Bowie." And I go and look it up, and sure enough, the way that happened is David Bowie's estate was looking for creative ways that they could license his catalog, and so they put that out there. And Nashville now has taken on there's another song, Chevrolet, that's really popular, and that one, in the case with that one, it's like another riff from Give Me the Beat Boys, Free My Soul is the open riff for that one. So like that's just the thing they're doing now, and I don't know, that's nothing to do with AI. I just had to rant about how much I hate that.
I saw in the newspaper that Randy Travis is scheduled to perform in Clarksburg on April 26th next year. He's not going to be singing. His AI replacement is going to be singing with his old band. Are you going to go?
I've got people in Clarksburg, so I'd have somewhere to stay, but I feel like that's probably going to be a whole no for me. That feels dystopian. That feels real dystopian. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's like the most dystopian concert plan that I've heard of. If we could also get the hologram of Tupac to show up there, that could possibly really like add the cherry on top.
That would be awesome.
I mean, actually, honestly, if you combine that, I would go. Then I'm just like, that's so random and weird. I got to go see that.
So when did you leave Welch?
We moved up to Bluefield back in like 99. I was like 14, 15 years old. And we came up the road because my dad had got a job, not trying to brag, kind of hard not to, as the administrator of the Bluefield Moose Lodge. And so we moved up the road for that sweet gig.
Could you imagine staying there and winding up like many of the other people in McDowell?
Yeah, that's another conversation I had not too long ago with somebody. Was trying to explain, because I was trying to give them explanations of different versions of drug addiction and how sneaky and pervasive it can be. But everybody's got all kinds of judgment and thinks they know. But say you're living in Welch, you find your options kind of just dwindle as far as the different places that you can go and work, unless you drive like an hour or so, because Bluefield's about an hour from Welch, and there's a lot of people from Welch drive all the way up here for a job. But it's real easy to have your options cut away from you real fast. Like the car suddenly goes, and then you can't get this or you can't get that, and next thing you know, you don't have reliable transportation, and you're in a place where you can't really get out, and you can't get the job, and you don't have a whole lot of options of other stuff to do. I don't know, maybe just kind of get high about it, because how are you going to dig yourself out of the place that you're in? And it's real easy to end up in situations like that around here. So, but also on the converse side, like I love Welch. Welch is so beautiful. I might randomly move back there one day if I just have money and can, because every time I go back there, I'm like, man, ain't much to do here. God, I love it. I might move here. And also Sterling Drive-In for the win. You're not going to get a better sandwich on the planet.
What distinguishes Bluefield's music scene from Charleston, Huntington, and Morgantown's?
Man, I hate to say I hate to say it, I feel bad, but as far as actual music scene, there's not much here anymore. Like there's a couple places that have some music, and there's some really good musicians from here. I know some really excellent musicians in town and in the area. But as far as the actual live music venues, it's kind of dwindled a bit in music. And there's now, meanwhile, in Charleston, you've got a lot of places they're playing. Fayetteville, a lot of places. Lewisburg, there's a good bit of places where people are playing. And, you know, around the area, like without driving too much, like I play in, you know, Cool Ridge, where Weather Ground Brewery is, and different stuff around Beckley and, you know, here in southern West Virginia. But honestly, yeah, Bluefield, it's a little sparse these days. It's a little sparse. But I will say that I think maybe that lends to a certain kind of it's either going to be pretty straight up country, like grizzled country, or it's going to be like kind of have some despair to it, because like there's like me down here making whatever kind of sad ass twisted rock songs I am, and like the guys from Curses. I don't know if you ever heard them. Excellent fucking metal band out of Princeton, but they're all out of like Princeton and Bluefield, like those guys around here. And yeah, they're not making happy music clearly. So
Matt, what's your favorite venue to play in West Virginia?
so you know what, I would say it kind of depends on the kind of parties. I got a Weather Ground Brewery in Cool Ridge, West Virginia. Got a lot of love for them, because whether it's just a night there in the tap room or when they're having like one of their big events, they have some of the best human beings that just gather under that. You can just play some really off the wall stuff and get. I can't really think of another place quite like that. But there's other spots like Rendezvous River Lodge up there on the gorge in Fayetteville, just across the bridge. That place, that room is just like on the right night, it's just like ready to get rowdy. I watched a woman twerk to Tom Waits the one night when I was playing it in there, and I was just like, I love this place. Other than that, you know, those are two of the two favorites that come to mind immediately. But God, there's a lot of really good spots around here where you feel like, you know what, Rob, we'll give them a shout out. I only get to play there every now and then now, but the Rail Yard here in Bluefield, West Virginia, they don't do as much live music anymore. But that's the place that's been like a home base for me a lot of times too. And yeah, they've been really good to me for the years, and I always love when I do get to go play there. Played not long ago, and it was like a reunion, like a family reunion, getting to come home to some of my favorite misfits.
Chappell Roan is having issues with fans approaching her on the street. She recently told Rolling Stone, "They need to see me as a random bitch on the street. You can't yell at a random bitch who's on the sidewalk that you don't know." Have you ever had those types of fan issues before?
You know, I feel it's been really interesting watching Chappell Roan and this stuff lately, because I appreciate it too. It's nice to see somebody just, I would imagine you probably would be pretty pissed off. You got rando people in your driveway, like being crazy, and photographers screaming at you. So I'd probably snap a little bit like her too. But, I'm much more low key, and I'm very lucky. Everybody that's ever sort of, recognized me or said anything to me has been really, really, really nice about it. Oddly enough, I'm having that way more lately off of like TikTok than probably I feel like I've ever had with anything before in my life. Either TikTok or playing on the news randomly. Like I've played WDVA a few times, and it'll be like 5 o'clock in the morning. I would be like, there's nobody up. And then like people at random gas stations, stuff like, sure, that guy was singing on the news. But people are always really, really cool about it. The day that they start being weird or mean, I might have different feelings about it. But I'd like to be successful enough to do what I love and just pay for my life with that. Like I don't really want to live too ballerific. I just like want to like pay my bills and not be in medical debt and stuff. And I'd love to be the kind of famous that gets recognized occasionally by people who are very nerdy in the same direction as me. Just like, hey, and like already know about it. Like I think if I was Chappell Roan's level of famous, I would probably be flipping out and yelling at some people too.
You got to meet Bernie Sanders 8 years ago in Welch when he was campaigning for president. What does it say about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump not visiting the area and speaking to the locals about their concern?
Well, first of all, I got to say, that's like Nardwar level digging. The fact that you just like got that anyways, that I went down, because that was like a news thing I did for the radio stations I work at. because I'm still the news director, but actually did news like updates then. But I was like, well, I got to go see if a presidential candidate's coming down to McDowell County. And I think you make exactly the right point. That's something I've thought every single time since. I mean, even like Donald Trump, they polled for him so well. They voted for him so much. Why wouldn't he take that opportunity? Like, I always thought that was kind of a glaring myth. And same thing, honestly, on Kamala or anyone else. Like, it's West Virginia is a place that doesn't get visited as much because it's not a swing state. It's not a fucking one that they're looking at as it's going to go this way or that way. And those are the places they're going to go visit the most. And I couldn't help but have a whole lot of respect for Bernie when he did show up back in the day. And he was very on issue. It was very on brand for him. He was like, hey, I noticed that poverty happens a lot, and I think that's not okay. I noticed that this is a perfect example of a place that goes through that, and spoke to a lot of really relevant issues. And then he went on to, lose in the campaign.
But he won all 55 counties in the primary.
Yeah, that was the wild thing to see, like, so many people that would go for Bernie in one way, that like the crossovers too, that were like, well, I like Bernie, but I'll go for Trump over Hillary if that's the choice. So that was a wild time to live through, to say the least.
Jill Stein visited Morgantown earlier in the year. I was, it's not Charleston, it's not McDowell County, but it would be great if Cornel West and Chase Oliver would come here, because a lot of people, I just see politics changing in West Virginia. I think more and more people are becoming really disillusioned with both parties.
Yeah, I think if you go long enough and you don't really see any result, in a sense, that it probably leads to a special kind of disillusionment. I imagine it might be even worse in West Virginia now, because it was 83 years or something, I think, of Democratic majority, and Republicans use that sort of line to their advantage a lot. But now they've been in the majority for a good couple of decades now, or a decade and a half, or somewhere in there. And I think people are just experiencing enough of the same. They're like, well, hey, guess what? We're still not seeing any of the results that we want to. It's almost as if none of them care about it. None of them are really going to help us at any point in time. So I think that they're just really disengaged at this point in West Virginia. I can't help but wonder what the turnout percentages have been the last election or two. West Virginia, it's not much in America in general. We are not a vote happy population, but
yeah, the numbers haven't been so hot.
Yeah,
the past decade.
Yeah, which is one of the things I try not to be too hopeful about or naive, but I like to tell people, like, if you think it's a bunch of BS and it should work differently, then if a lot more of you showed up and actually voted when it was time, there might be enough of you to actually, sway some things in a direction. I know it's annoying with representative democracy that it's slow, and then they got to do stuff and it takes time. But, if you just sort of sit at home and then say, well, I didn't vote, but I hate things are so crappy. It's like, well, then you really didn't do like the bare minimum you had to do, man. They're asking you to show up one day and like push a couple buttons, make a couple choices, pick some names. Come on, bro, show up.
Macklemore was given the boot from the Neon City Festival in Las Vegas, supposedly oversaying "Fuck America" at a pro-Palestine festival in Seattle. Recently, 700 members of SAG-AFTRA demanded their union take action on potential blacklistings of actors over their support of Palestinian human rights. Are you concerned that the arts and entertainment world may be slipping into a new era of McCarthyism over musicians and actors being punished for their political views on Palestine?
That's one of those things where you see artists go back and forth a lot. There's some that go with the, oh, I don't really talk about that stuff, or, oh, I don't think it's our place, or, oh, no, I think I have to have a place in it. And I don't know, I kind of leave that up to each and every person. But one of the annoying things about it is that you have to know that there might end up being some sort of backlash, like if you speak out about whatever. I hope that we certainly aren't in a place where, just for supporting Palestine or pointing out that, like, hey, it looks like there might be like some war crimes happening here, because that's an issue that's just deeply annoying to me. How like back and forth, or how people will like sort of completely block out one or the other. Like people are just like, no, you gotta, there's a very pro-Israel, lobby, and then there's people who, very clearly, again, it's pointing out, war crimes happening against Palestinians. But it's like there's just absolutely no allowing from either of these sides sometimes for like the nuance or paying attention of like how deep-seated and screwed up and annoying the situation is. Like to point out just like, October 7th was terrible and a horrible thing, and then also what's happening now is a terrible and an awful thing, and we should stop the war crimes. If I want the war crimes to stop, it doesn't mean that I think October 7th was a good thing, right? And they're like, nope, it's one or the other. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question much at all, but I don't. It's a dangerous game you're playing if you get into hey, here's a song, and then also here's how I feel about this touchy subject, and people will probably get mad about it. They're gonna get mad about it. They like to get mad about stuff.
Yeah. Are you concerned that the Israel, Gaza, and Russia, Ukraine wars could land the U.S. into World War III?
Yeah. That's I go back and forth between you never know when the apocalyptic type things are happening until suddenly they are, and then also the way that things just weirdly just fizzle out and things end up working themselves out sometimes. Got to go back and forth. I think we're at a place in history where probably a lot of us are doing better than we've ever been, technologically and ability-wise, but also we are more aware of all the terrible things that are happening than we ever have been. We have more coverage, more in-depth information about all of it, so... But yeah, it does kind of look a little World War III-ish out there, I'm not gonna lie.
I've been watching these old movies from the 80s, The Day After, and I think there was one called Threads, a British Day After ripoff about the realities of a potential nuclear war. It's something that people are they're not talking about. People think that our military is so great and everything, but what if we get attacked from all sides in the near future and they're using nuclear weapons? What's going to happen to us? I mean, there are consequences for endless war.
Yeah, it's easy to romanticize military conflict when it's usually just not on your turf. That's the thing that always scares me. Is like where we always think of any and all that kind of stuff as stuff that happens other places, and it is until suddenly it's happening where you live too. So we've just historically been safe from that a lot, which is also like why like 9/11 shook us so much. Is like, oh wait, yeah, we're not completely impervious to like terrible things happening here. What if? And that's still, not to be too doomsdayish or anything, but I would like that to be a greater concern for us from time to time.
I asked my homies on social media if they had any questions for you.
Yes,
Zachariah Joe Elmore asked, he wants to know your thoughts on the writing process and what avenues you travel to achieve the sound/lyrics you are looking for.
I'm probably trying to be a little more thoughtful about that more these days, but kind of like I was telling you a little bit earlier, it's usually pretty random. Like whatever idea just jumps into my head, and then like I'm inspired to be distracted long enough. It's very compulsive. Like I think a lot of the people I know are very smart and sit down and write and come up with stuff. And I don't know. I just sort of just randomly something distracts me and spits out of my head. And then I'm like, damn it, I guess I'm not doing these dishes now. Let me write this song real quick.
Okay. Now for 5 questions.
Okay.
Pointer Sisters or Twisted Sister?
Pointer Sisters.
A Peppy from Tudor's or a Gino's pepperoni roll?
I think a Peppy. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Peppies from Tudor.
Ramps or Molly Mushers?
Ramps.
Best motion picture soundtrack of all time?
I'd probably be torn between Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs.
What's more dangerous, Jason Voorhees wielding a machete or a horny old man on Viagra at a strip joint?
Absolutely, the horny old man. Absolutely, because I don't know. There's something wily about that. Thing is about Jason with the machete. Sure, he's dangerous. He's out to murder you. He's no good, But and without words, he makes that very clear. You see him show up at your doorstep. You're not like, oh, hey, are you lost? Do you want directions? Do you need a glass of milk? That man's bent on murder. The old man on Viagra is the strip club. He's like, he's technically allowed to be there, but he's wily and he's up to no good. He's up to no good.
I want to thank my special guest, Matt Dill, for sharing his music and the stories behind his songs. To find out where Matt's playing next and to stream and purchase Drunken, Belligerent Forget-Me-Nots, check out www.mattdillmusic.com. mothman.thebibleBelt.com. I hope everyone listening to Mothman in the Bible Belt votes on November 5th. We have early voting in West Virginia. There's no reason for anyone to not vote this year. Voting has consequences. Voting for warmongers gets you more war. In the Mountain State, anti-war and anti-genocide presidential candidates Jill Stein and Chase Oliver are on the ballot. Remember, endless war, poverty, climate change, reproductive rights, gun violence, Palestine, Lebanon, Black lives, and LGBT rights are all on the ballot. Whether you are for or against these things, you should know where your candidates stand on issues you care about. Do your research before you vote. For Mothman in the Bible Belt podcast outlet updates, guest bios, episode breakdowns, and links to social media, check us out on the web at www.mothmaninthebiblebelt.com. Thanks for listening.